Joshua K. Bland. I'm the Associate Director and Museum Curator of the Historical Society of Berks County. Today is November 21st, 2007. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon, and we're seated down here at 940 Center Avenue at the main site for the Historical Society of Berks County, our library. I'm joined today by George M. Miser IX to my left, who is the President of the Historical Society of Berks County. To my immediate, to all the way to the left is Joe Pickler. He's a former employee of the Reading Brewery. And on my right is Scott Parzanese. We're sitting down with Joe Pickler today because we're just about to embark on our next exhibit, Beer and Pretzels Berks County Style, opening December 1st. And the three of us will be speaking with Joe Pickler about his family history and also his employment history at the Reading Brewery. Thank you for joining us, Joe.
You're quite welcome.
Would you tell us a little of your background? You said your father was the brewmaster?
My father was head brewer.
Head brewer.
And he had gotten the job, I don't know exactly when, but he came to the Reading Brewery when beer came back after Prohibition in 1933 and worked there until his death, which was 1960. And he had a very good fortune because the brewmaster at that time was Charles Spade. And he had German background. He was German, and so my father came from Bavaria. And my father was working in a brewery in Lancaster, which was about to close, but he wasn't aware of it. So he sent word over to Lancaster that he should come and see him in Reading. And when he came, he told him, "Your brewery's going to close, but I have a job for you."
Oh,
so
good. Now,
Go ahead.
Was his father in the brewing industry at all?
My father?
No, your grandfather.
My grandfather, no. My father came from an agricultural area called Niederbayern in Germany, right close to the Danube River.
Okay.
And his father, interesting that you should ask, his father had a trade what was called a Bittner, which meant that at that time, all the vessels, everything was practically made out of wood, including pipes. All those things, and that was his trade. And he went into breweries and made the vessels, made probably all the buckets and all those things which were made out of wood. And unfortunately, when my father was 5 years old, my grandfather died of pneumonia, which was a death sentence at that time, because there was no penicillin or anything like that. And had he not died, I probably would still be in Bavaria. But without a trade, my father was after World War I, of course, there was a great deal of unemployment in Germany after World War I, and he went and had to be hired out on a farm at the age of 12. And of course, not to belabor the whole story, but that's the reason he came to the United States, because there was no
financial
opportunity.
situation was terrible.
It was terrible. There was no chance of even thinking of getting married.
What age was he when he moved over?
He had to be, I think, 23.
Okay. Did he move over by himself?
His sister came over first.
Okay.
And he came to Lancaster in the Prince Street station at that time. And he came there with a rope tied around a cardboard box and a tag around his neck that said who he was.
Okay.
And 3 days later, he was working in Columbia, loading half barrels of beer on a boxcar during Prohibition. He never collected
Near beer, of course, right?
Never collected 1 cent of any kind of welfare or anything whatsoever his entire life. Work ethic.
What can you relate? You said your father was that brewmaster. What was your family before you started working for Reading Brewery? What was your sort of growing up? Was there any sort of expectation? Would you follow your father's footsteps?
Yeah, as a boy, I kind of thought that. My father was a brewer, and there's a difference between a brewer and a brewmaster, because the brewmaster has to go to school, and that's an upper position. It's one of the most important positions in the brewery. And of course, as a boy, you think of those things. But I did work in the brewery when I was 18 years old. I worked for a year, and that was 1955 to 1956. And the draft was still in existence at that time, and I was drafted into the Army. So, but I went to Germany, which was my good fortune. I was able to see my whole father's background, where he came from, the farm he worked on, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And then I worked again. I went back to the brewery. I spent another 3.5 years in Germany, but I'm a tinsmith by trade, and I worked in a body shop in Bavaria for 3.5 years. The housing situation was so bad, I came back to the United States, couldn't find the right job right away. I didn't want to go into any of the body shops here. They were so ill-equipped, in my opinion. I went back to the brewery, and I stayed at the brewery till 1976 when it closed.
Like you
Right.
said, you were there the
Yeah.
last day.
Yeah. Then I went to work at Conrail.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The railroad.
And
In the machine shop there?
Yes.
Okay.
They pipe fitting and tinsmith
Okay.
at Conrail.
What were your duties at the, you said for the early years at the Reading Brewery? What were
Okay,
your duties?
at the Reading Brewery, I worked on the what they call the kettle floor. When beer was brewed.
In the main brew house there,
The
right?
main brew house, and
Ninth and Laurel, it's gone today, I believe.
it's all gone.
Yeah, it's the
yes.
one building they knocked
Right,
down.
it's all gone. And my job was, we brewed a lot of beer at one time. We brewed over 500 barrels. It was capable of brewing 550 barrels at one time. So after the brew was finished, you had to take apart the machinery. Where the mash was kept, where the wort is finally converted and delivered to the kettle, to brewing kettle, has a false bottom, and that false bottom had to be taken apart every day and cleaned.
Okay.
All the spent grain and so forth. Everything had to be cleaned. A brewery is cleaner than a dairy. Yeah, because a brewery has the biggest enemy in a brewery is bacteria.
Mhm.
And bacteria will attack the yeast, and if it attacks the yeast, the brewery's in trouble. So those are big concerns in a brewery, so it's very, very clean. So I had to take apart the machinery, clean everything, put it back together, and get ready for the next brew.
Okay.
Were there any vaults there in your time?
No, there were no vaults. They had ammonia refrigeration throughout the brewery. We had huge compressors that were DC compressors, and they pumped what they call brine throughout the brewery to keep it cool. The vaults, the cellars looked like vaults anyway. We had open fermenters and closed fermenters. Open fermenters are the vats where the beer would ferment in there, and of course they would have to be cleaned because the yeast would convert the convertible sugars in the beer to alcohol, and then the yeast would come up out over the top or something and had to be cleaned and so forth.
Was it three shifts a day, 5 days a
It
week?
was 24 hours a day, always.
Really?
Most of the beer was brewed at night.
Saturdays and Sundays included, or just 5 days?
Somebody always worked there, yes.
Okay.
You could not, it had to be attended to.
You couldn't walk away?
You could not walk away
Okay.
from the beer.
Like the distilleries?
No. Soft drink is very, very simple compared to the art of brewing.
How many employees did it have at its height when you
Um,
were there?
I'd have to guess, and I can't really guess right now.
Sure.
But I can tell you later because I have a picture of all the guys there. I'm going to say 150.
150,
Yeah.
okay.
The old pictures show a refrigerational section on the far right. Was that where they kept the beer in later years? I think there's a photograph or a painting that shows like a refrigeration section on the far right. And there was they had a public
On
tavern.
the 9th Street side?
Yeah, facing 9th Street on the far side, about the south side.
Mm-hmm.
What was that in your time?
What it was
That
called?
section, no, that section of the far south, and was that just all part of the whole brewery operation itself?
Yeah, we had brew house, we had and the bottle shop and the shipping. It was kind of unique because they could package the product and send it underground through a tunnel down.
Oh, between the two buildings?
Yes,
Oh, that's
down
right.
The bottling works.
Yes, from the bottle works down to transportation,
Okay.
or were they packaged or palletized?
There were
Ship.
3 buildings, but there was the main original building at the one that's not there anymore. That was the brew house, right?
Right.
And then there was the one building across the street near the railroad tracks. That was the bottling and the cleaning?
The brew house was separate. And
Okay.
in back of the brew house, what we used to call the stables, because in the early days,
Okay.
they had the stables. And of course, we have lithograph on tin which shows all that. And it
Mhm.
also shows the early railroad,
Okay,
because they had sidings in the back
yeah,
where they could load
yeah, right
cars.
along, I think it was
Yeah.
right along Laurel Street right there.
Right.
Yeah, we have a few pictures of
Absolutely.
those.
Very interesting, because also going up 9th Street at that time, they had electrified trolleys too,
Okay,
you can see on that picture,
okay,
which is interesting. And at the same time, you could see horse-drawn wagons with barrels of beer.
mhm. And the building across the street connected underground, that was the bottling plant?
The building across the street was office and the bottling plant, and the tunnel that went from the bottling plant went downhill to the back to the shipping area.
Okay,
Okay.
what was,
Warehouse.
okay, what was the new building they built? I think it's the Eagle Distributing, it's on the other side of the railroad tracks?
Well, that originally, that was not, it was a old building, and they built a new building,
Okay.
a new shipping
Oh, that was the
department.
shipping
Yeah, that's
department, okay.
that's the new shipping
Okay,
department.
and that's today.
I don't remember what the old one looked like, because I might not have been here.
Today, I think that's the Eagle Distributing.
Yes, I think they took that over.
Which
Yeah.
is, sort of nice to see it come back to the beer business.
Absolutely. If I can make a comment about the beer business,
Sure.
is that the two breweries in Reading sustained each other, because had there not been two breweries and only one, it would have left a long, long time before it did. But it's what we call friendly competition.
Mhm.
So if you didn't drink Reading, you drank Sunshine, and vice versa.
Hmm.
And the death knell was that out-of-town and regional breweries and large breweries would come in and undersell at any price, and take it at a loss
Mhm.
even, until they acquired a business. Then, of course, you paid whatever they dictated.
Mhm.
So
No
that was,
choice.
that was their plan. What I really love to see is because everything goes around in 360s, where we had over 150 breweries or more in Pennsylvania. We have that many again now in microbreweries,
Mhm.
and they make a wonderful product.
Mhm.
And I think Yingli was the one that survived, and I think that they survived. I don't know if they were union or not. It may have been a financial situation for them that they were able to hang on, and I think their success was that their product wasn't cheapened or lightened by using less material and so forth. They still gave a good product for a reasonable price, and you can see the results today.
I think part of it too is the sense of pride, not only by the people who make it, but by the people who drink it, and that's the reason perhaps that the new Reading Premium release has been so successful.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
People have done it.
Very happy to see that they are successful. Unfortunately, they should have had a little more pride earlier, but I don't think it's the people's fault entirely. It's the out-of-town breweries and their advertising and so forth.
Mhm.
There's a lot to the beer business.
How did the plant receive raw product, and how did you ship it?
Okay, they came in by railroad car.
Oh, they did?
Yes, raw products. Malt is the chief ingredient, and a lot of people think that hops is something that it becomes part of the beverage, but it really doesn't. The hops are only in the brew a very short period of time, and they're simply for flavoring. That's all. They're in the brew, I would estimate 10 minutes at that time, at the most. And after that, they go right, when the brew is finished, it goes right, the first thing is done, it goes right into what is called a hop jack, a hop strainer, takes the hops out immediately.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would get too bitter.
So all the raw material came in by train, even up until the last day, or?
Yes,
Okay.
all the earlier years it came in burlap bags and had to be carried. And of course, in modern times,
Covered hoppers.
it was pneumatic, it was air suction that took it up into the tanks.
Was it shipped out by rail as well, or not?
Mostly by truck,
Mostly by truck.
mostly by truck.
Was there any of it going out by rail? towards the
I'm
end?
not aware of that, if there was.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that the thing was local or regional business is the best, because that's the only way they could make a
Okay,
profit.
that's what I thought, but I
you know.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, it couldn't really, wasn't profitable to
Okay.
ship it, like that. So,
I'm curious, Scott, how did you get into the collecting business with the breweries?
A lot of the younger collectors in the 70s started with beer cans, beer can craze. Also family members having hotels and beer signs in their businesses. I have a question. The name of Reading Brewing Company, when it changed from Prohibition to after Prohibition, and for a period of time it was known as Old Reading. Can you elaborate on that change?
I would have liked to have seen it stay Old Reading. I think it had many possibilities in as far as advertisement is concerned. I think the reason is that is pressure from the outside, pressure from outside breweries. They had to get modern, and that was the thing that made them change. It was too old-fashioned, so they thought, you know.
I heard it was like trying to change a mindset to be more appealing to other people who weren't so familiar with the Pennsylvania Dutch culture.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. Times change. It says times have changed now. Reading is not the face of Reading is not what it was before. So we have changed. That label on that bottle right there is a good indication of getting modern.
And the distal fat there.
It was well, this is the old one yet, but they still had Reading Premium. It was a white label. This is what they wanted. They wanted something to hit the eye, and it was successful. It was successful. It
Was
worked.
the Old Reading referring back to before Prohibition, during Prohibition?
I think the Old Reading had to do with where we are in southeastern Pennsylvania, being so much Pennsylvania Dutch, and they also had an ale called Berkshire Ale, always in tradition and something old. So with time, that didn't work too good anymore, and I guess the people that are in the know are telling them you got to change. To improve sales, you've got to come with something new. That's the way we're geared today in modern society.
Where did you get your cans and bottles? Any idea?
I have no idea. I might have known it one time, but I don't remember anymore what they were called, where they got them.
Was any of that made in-house at all, or you just...
No,
okay.
no. Ironically, the package for the cans, the printing, and the package that it comes in actually costs more than the product. It probably does that today too. So
That was at the very end.
that was the very end. They had a series, a little
Yeah.
collector series there. I often spoke to people in the know about advertising, and so I think his name was Larry Levy. And I said, why can't we make a better product? And when I say a better product, I mean to increase the amount of malt. That's all it amounts to. Increase the amount of malt into the product and charge what it should be charged for. And that's what the microbreweries have done. They've made a good product. It costs a lot more,
But people are willing to pay
but
for
people
the
are willing
quality.
to buy it because it's a better product.
Mhm.
And of course, it satisfies the palate a lot better. And ironically, there's the thing where the light beer situation came along. Reading never made light beer, neither did Sunshine. They probably would if they would have stayed. Did they? Well, they called it light, but that didn't mean it was light beer.
Right.
They called it light
It's
because
like
they wanted it light in color.
Okay.
Okay, and it's ironic the way things go 360, because now the thing is going to lager. Even Budweiser has gone to a lager, which is more of an amber color
It's the
than
most
a lot of the
popular kind of beer in
microbreweries,
the country.
which dictates that you're getting something that has fuller body. You're getting something grainy, something. It's a malt beverage,
Mhm.
so. But those are the constraints of being in business, in that kind of a business, highly competitive. But I'm very happy, like I say, to see all the microbreweries, and I'm happy to see that Reading Premium is
Release.
made again. And I venture to say that it's probably a better product than what we had. Really, I really do, because I think the microbreweries introduce a lot more quality into. It's always a contest of profit and cost. You know,
Can you, sorry,
Go ahead. Well, you know, when you think, they're willing to pay more today for a premium beer, but at the time, years back when they were making their product, people didn't have as much money generally as we have today.
that's true.
So they were glad to get a beer
That's
at
true.
whatever price.
That's right.
either that or we're more selective today.
We're more selective today, the competition, but people are generally more affluent than they were.
Yeah.
People forget, some of the younger people forget that years ago, a lot of people just didn't have very much money.
No, they didn't. And beer actually was very cheap. When you think about it, you could go into a tavern and have a glass of beer drawn for 10 cents. Almost unbelievable.
There's something on the bar to nibble on.
Yes, and the brewery survived, so times have changed.
Can you give us a sense of the atmosphere at the brewery in the last few years that it was in operation? Or the the atmosphere, yeah, camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
Yes, a lot of people don't realize that in the early days, the brewery workers were the best paid workers in the country. And of course, over time, that diminished. But it was very steady work, and Mr. Fishman, who was the owner of the brewery, and I've said this many times, was a very good boss, a very good owner, and I never heard an unkind word about him. We had great, yes,
Okay.
yes, we had great picnics. We had the banquets at the Berkshire, remember? And he put out a lot for his employees. So no, the camaraderie was good in the brewery.
Even in the last few years?
Absolutely.
Was there any sense of what?
No, we had no idea.
That's what I
We
was
had
going to
no
ask.
idea. We really didn't. Even myself, I was repairing all the stainless steel kegs that we had, and we had maybe 500 of them, and there were a lot of them had cracks and things, and I was welding them up and repairing them and everything, but I had no idea. I should have. That we were going to close because we were still solvent.
So I read one of the Eagle articles, and it said one of the guys couldn't believe they closed because they still had thousands of cans all
Yes.
set together.
Yeah. Yes. It's probably a strategy. Had we known earlier, it would have been detrimental, probably.
Probably.
You know. So we didn't know. It was a shock to us. And of course, it was the same year that the Reading Railroad also went out.
Yeah.
Within a
So
month.
It was, yeah,
Yeah,
it was not. And little did I know that I was going to be working
For
for
the succeeding company.
the default company,
Yeah.
Conrail. But unfortunately, that's what happened to the two breweries. And in Sunshine's case, it was really a bad situation because money was supposed to be invested in the brewery and was not invested. It was squandered, and that's the reason they had.
I got the feeling they were sort of run into the ground, shall we say.
They were run into the ground because they could not produce. They could not keep up production. The machine kept breaking down all the time, which the banks had loaned.
That was Leo's job.
Yes, I don't want to mention any names, but at any rate, it was a shame, and it really hurt us too because after they closed, we were next. I mean, we had the feeling that we were gonna be next.
Were you employed at Reading, you said, for 6 years, right?
I was 9 years in it.
Oh, 9 years,
Yeah.
so you would have been working there when Sunshine closed. Did
Yeah.
any Sunshine employees come over to Reading?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes,
Any idea
we
how
took-
many, or
I would. I'll take a guess and say maybe about 15,
15, okay.
something like that.
In the last days of Sunshine, I know that some of the fellows who worked there went up in the attic or the upper recesses of some of those buildings, and there was all kinds of memorabilia up there, which found their way home. How about at the Reading Brewery? Much of that around anymore?
Some people there. We had some things that I know. I have a wooden beer barrel that I have, and of course we all got cans, and I had gotten things that my father had that were obsolete, and that's how I acquired some of those things.
Is it true that the Bergheim cans there, they were the last thing run through the canning line?
I'm not sure if they were the last or not. They
Someone
could have
said-
been. I mean, the actual product probably. Yeah.
Those are empty,
Alright.
those were sealed empty.
Yeah.
I heard those were the last things run through there,
Yeah.
just sort of
Yeah,
coming out as
right.
souvenirs.
Right. We also made ale. And we made Berkshire Ale, and it actually was very good product. It was very good. It had a lot of material in it, and it was very good. That's what I thought, that's the kind of quality I thought we should have had and charged accordingly. And maybe we could have survived, but maybe not, I don't know.
Was premium the only, I guess you say flavor or brand, was that the only
Yes.
one
Yeah.
continued by Schmitz?
Premium beer, I hate to say this, but a lot of times there's things said in advertising, different beers, that really isn't true. For instance, formulas or whatever, or if they're making several etiquettes, and they're saying this is in this, and this beer is in this, and this beer is in that, it's really not true. It's all the same. Can afford to separate it all like that. What they really do is take all the brews, and beer is followed very closely. You have a full-time chemist who is always following the beers, and there's ways of measuring the content of fermentable sugars, so how much alcohol and so forth, and everything is blended. They take all the brews and blend them.
I once saw a cartoon of 3 different beer varieties coming all out the same spigot.
Oh, yeah, well, that was true at
Yeah.
Sunshine, because I had a friend work there.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, they'd be filling so many bottles, and then they get other, different cans, and it would say, like Polish National, and it came out of the same spigot, they would fill those, and then they had, they were quite, I think they did about 5 or 6, and it all came out of the same spigot.
That's unfortunate, but brewing beer is an art, and as I said before, the brewery has to be very clean. The yeast will become sick if it has bad bacteria, so the chemist always is checking, and we had to clean everything all the time. Floors were scrubbed sometimes with bleach, and sometimes with bacteria-killing soaps, but constantly. So we could not afford to have any kind of bacteria come in contact with any part of the product.
You made an interesting comment that most breweries are cleaner than the
Dairies.
dairies.
That's
That's
true,
interesting.
and they are, because they have to be. Because you can keep the yeast into infinity if you take care of it.
Mhm.
You know, I know a lot of German beers, you know, they brag about that they have their yeast maybe 50 years, 100 years, you know.
Huh.
The only difference, the German beers in Bavaria, for instance, they have what they call the Reinheitsgebot, which was around 1600. They passed this law that only water and malt and hops be used. Now, our breweries in the United States use some corn, and some use some corn and rice and malt.
Mhm.
And the most important product grain, of course, is the malt, the barley malt, and it saves a little bit because they can obtain sugar from these other grains and substitute a little bit so that it
Saves a
doesn't
little
cost so
money.
much.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a very interesting process from beginning to end. It's not like soft drink where everything it's complex. There's chemical conversions that have to be made. There's starches to avoid. You only want fermentable sugars. And so you have a clean, filtered product at the end.
Were there any Reading employees offered any opportunity to go to work for Schmitz?
I
or was
think
that-
a few of them at that time, there were Schaefer's
Schaefer's up there.
up there.
Up the way to Allentown.
Yes, yeah, up that way. I think a couple guys went up there,
Okay.
yeah. That's all I know of, because
That didn't last all that long, did it?
it didn't land, changed hand quite a
Yeah,
bit
a couple
too,
times.
up there. But what you see today in the microbreweries is very encouraging. The equipment that they have is really nice equipment, mostly stainless steel, and very sanitary and good quality. So I encourage,
Yeah, the local Reading beer is a good tasting product.
yes, because it's a microbrewery, and they're doing a good job.
Why do you think that they were so anxious to, I think, was the brew house the only building demolished?
Everything's gone.
Well, the bottling plant's still there?
Oh, across the street, right on that side.
That's the idea, they took that down.
You think they were so anxious to prevent another company coming in there?
No, I don't think so. I don't know, the
Once they had taken out some of those, the side to get those kettles out, it became a real hazard for kids playing around there. Because they could have walked
Absolutely,
right
yeah.
out,
Yeah.
fallen down a
Yes.
full story. So it was a safety issue.
Because I
Yeah.
know during Prohibition, when they would shut down a brewery, they didn't do enough, because you actually didn't physically wreck a brewery, because people still had the resources to put it back in operation. So obviously with Sunshine and Reading, they disabled it very quickly and took the building down
Yes, they
very
did.
quickly.
They're very old buildings, for one thing.
Yeah.
They were there a long time. I know the stone, I think I have a picture of it. The stone said 1886.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was
86,
in,
yeah, that's right.
in horizontal like
No, wait a
that.
minute.
I don't know what happened to it.
That building at the corner was used for 2 years for the Reading Artistic Glass Works.
Okay.
And Bissinger was involved with that. And that turned out to be, they made a wonderful product, but it had very few sales locally. I think the Reading Artistic Glass Works operated from 84 to 86. And then in 86, Philip Bissinger got involved in the early days of the Reading Brewery. And so that original building on the corner, not the Fairview, but the lower corner, that was the Reading Artistic Glass Works. And then they
Okay.
just added, I think they added 2 sections over the course of time.
Okay.
Was there any employee reunions after the company was?
Any what?
Any employee reunions after the company was closed?
Actually, not.
Or not?
Never talked about it, but it hasn't happened to my knowledge yet.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. I don't know how many of us are alive yet.
You're ready to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't bring another employee with me today because he's already going on his Thanksgiving
Yeah.
vacation. But he could tell quite a bit too. He worked there quite a few years.
Wondering if it might be possible to get as many employees together
Wouldn't that be
now
interesting?
and March 15th as much as possible.
That would
Same
be-
thing
Yeah,
for
that would be
Sunshine.
nice. That would be,
Same
that
thing for
would be,
Sunshine.
That'd be fun,
Very
have the
nice.
2 groups together.
Yeah,
yeah.
as long as they don't
Yeah.
get any confrontation.
We were always together at the company picnics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a
Sunshine
lot of
and-
times, yeah, we went together with.
Oh, yeah, joint
we
company
went
picnics?
together, yeah. We had some great places, Carsonia Park,
Mhm.
you know. And I think they had an island down there, I think.
Oh, yeah, on
we
the island,
had the
yeah.
picnic out there.
Because you had a miniature golf course on that island one time.
Yeah, so the owners were very generous as far as that is concerned, and also, like I had said, the banquets, my parents really, they got a corsage, the ladies, and a very nice meal, it was great.
Did Fishman stay in the area after 76, or any idea?
Mr. Fishman,
How he?
no, I'm trying to think how, he didn't live that long after that. Now, he has a son, I don't know whether he's in this area or not either, but, no.
Okay.
No, it's, and I don't even know if the brewmaster is alive yet or not. His name was Elmo Messer. And I would assume he's probably in the early 80s
Okay.
right now, if he's still alive yet. Be nice to see him if he were in the area. Maybe he'll hear about it.
Do you have any questions, Scott? Is there any questions you have for?
No, quite interesting though, all the facts of the later days closing of the brewery.
Yeah, it was quite a shock to us, you know. Contrary to what people, and an interesting fact was that
How much notice did you have, like a few days, or how much notice did you have?
I can't recall exactly,
the
but it
letter.
wasn't long.
Okay.
But anyhow, it was an interesting fact was that it's hard to believe that you actually could drink beer in the brewery anytime,
We have some video.
anytime that you wanted to.
We have some video we're going to be showing the exhibit from Portrait of
Yeah.
the City from 1974.
Yeah.
Shows guys on a break or a lunch break or whatever, just drinking beer, being
Yes.
very, very
Yeah.
casual about it.
Yeah, I had a beer with my lunch.
Mhm.
Most
Usually.
breweries still,
Still
well,
do.
No,
They
they
still-
don't anymore.
no,
Nobody's
I was
allowed
at
to drink
Straub
anything.
out in western
No.
Pennsylvania,
No.
and they had a tap still there for the employees.
Really?
A few years ago.
Legacy
Yeah,
still
I
has a
think
few.
today it
Yeah,
wouldn't
not
happen
as-
anymore today because of all the insurance
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
issues right
Legacy
now.
still has a few taps in their basement for sampling.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Or tours, I imagine, for that sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember talking with someone who worked at the Boyertown Brewery, and he said they would work at the brewery, and when they had an hour off for lunch, they went up to the hotel there, right at the railroad tracks, and they drank anything but Boyertown beer.
Sunshine. You said they drink sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, it's always rivalry between the breweries, but
Did you ever
it's-
taste that Boyertown beer?
I probably did.
You know anything about that, Scott?
Just from a collector's standpoint,
collector's
stuff is
standpoint.
quite scarce.
I was surprised, that building still stands right on the main street to the right of that hotel, near the railroad tracks. You'd walk by, and it looks like a regular storefront. But apparently that building is built, like Fort Knox. Well, the supports in there are really terrific, and I think they made it on the second floor.
If I recall, I think 1952 is the
Yeah.
year they closed.
Yeah, the news for beer right now is too good for beer drinkers because it's gonna go up in price
Yeah.
because of the
because
scarcity of hops.
So the competition with corn and ethanol, I believe.
Yeah, so, in this country anyway, but, a lot of times, a lot of breweries import the hops from the Hallertau in Germany, or here in the United States, we can grow them too.
Mhm.
And I think it's pretty intensive work to grow hops, because the hops are.
You have to wait 2 or 3 years before you get
Yeah,
a product.
right.
Well, Lauer's son-in-law had some sort of a relative up in Wilmersdorf, and they actually grew hops in the Wilmersdorf area for that little Lauer brewery that used to be up there.
Yeah, well, I can see that because it's a very large expense for a brewery. And without hops, of course, beer lovers who like that bittersweet taste, that's very important.
Where I grew up, upstate New York, there used to be some hops fields up there, but they had a major
Yeah.
hops blight
Yeah,
after the turn of the, from
Yeah.
the 18th, sorry, from the 19th to the 20th century. They had major hops blight and totally ruined that business.
yeah.
That's what happened to the grapes in Berks County. They all, in the same year, got the grape rot. That ended locally the vineyards.
Well, we're experiencing right now in beer, we're experiencing a little bit of change in trend, which seems to be gaining, and that is wheat beer. Weizen, it's called in German. And the wheat is the main ingredient. It's very, how should I say, light and drinkable, refreshing. I don't think it has as much alcohol, and they flavored it a little bit with lemon, and that's actually very good. Yeah, so I see that coming on the horizon.
You said you went to work for, sorry,
Okay.
you said you went to work for Conrail after the brewery closed. Did you have any interest in getting another brewery job, or were you happy?
Well, I knew this writing was on the
Did you
wall.
have
There
to
was
stay-
nothing.
There was nothing.
There was
Okay.
nothing. No, there was nothing.
But you never explored like moving to
No.
Philadelphia, or you were
No,
comfortable
because
here?
they were on their way out too,
Okay.
all of them.
All the little ones.
All the little
yeah.
ones were on their way out.
Okay.
And that's why I keep emphasizing the fact that we have, that
come back
everything
again.
went 360.
That's absolutely right.
Yes. So hopefully that's what happens with Chinese products too.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Our pets will live longer.
And our children would be happy with their toys too.
That's right. But this is a very nice thing you're doing today,
Thank you.
That you're bringing this back again. It was a very important industry at one time in Reading. We had a lot of breweries. A lot of cities had quite a few breweries. And anything that gives, local employment.
It's
They were
amazing.
good jobs.
It's
They were
amazing.
steady.
I'm not originally from the area, but it's amazing to see the pride and heritage of the area. Not just the beer industry, not just the pretzel industry, but just the pride that people have in their jobs. And obviously such an industry unique to the area as beer and pretzels are.
It is. And if I may, I could say something about
Sure.
Reading itself. Reading geographically, if you really stand back and take a look, is a very, very beautiful city. We have the river coming through the city, and I talked one time to Mayor McMahon, and I said, that is where the accent has to go, on the river. I said, that is
That was the
the
beginning.
greatest yeah, it was the beginning, and it's the
Greatest
greatest asset
Mhm.
that you have. And I know in the city that I lived in Germany, in Würzburg, it was identical to Reading with the river running just like that, and the mountainsides. And you have to capitalize on that because it can be a great tourist attraction, and it can be a great place to live because geographically we live in a beautiful city.
Yeah, we do.
We're just not aware of it. We're just too
And
used to
very
it.
strategically placed too, when you consider
Absolutely, yeah.
Washington or Philadelphia or Harrisburg or Allentown.
It's just too bad we don't have those trolley cars running everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Lancaster's working on
Yeah.
theirs, so maybe we'll get some.
They were ahead of their time, and
There was a
we wish
movement
we
there
had
for a
it.
while, but bring the trolley back at least a little bit.
Lancaster is seriously working on getting them
well,
back,
self-propelled cars anyway,
Mhm.
at least,
We'll see.
But with gas coming to close to $3.50 a gallon, take a serious look at those things.
I agree. Well, if there's any other things you can think of,
No, I
George,
think
or Joe, Scott? Well, thank you very much for joining me. We appreciate it very
Thank
much,
you.
Joe. Thank you,
Thank you.
George, and thank you, Scott, very much.